Yeah.
Okay, all right, hold on.
Okay.
Hello there, and welcome to the Dr. Elisa Show here on KUHS Denver, the stream. Thank you for joining me. I have, as usual, an amazing guest, though this one, I am so excited to have this guest on today. It's the amazing, wonderful Jeff Walker, that I'm going to cut my intro of myself a little short. But if you're joining me for the first time, thank you for joining me. I'm messing with technology. There we go. As you know, I've always got a little bit of a glitch when I start. Thank you for joining me. This is an amazing opportunity to reach out to each of you and ignite a renaissance of spirit in you. I'd like you to check out my website, elisarobin.com. I'll be launching a new mentoring program, not coaching, mentoring, next week. There's some information there, so stay tuned there. You can also find me on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, Elisa Robin. I'm kind of everywhere. And if you are listening live and you can get to Facebook, you can also watch us chat and join the conversation on the Dr. Elisa Show on Facebook. And we'll be live there in a few minutes as we sort of get going. Also, you can still find my book, Way of the Well, on Amazon.com. It's my first novel. The second novel is taking a little longer, but it will be out the end of August. And guess what else you can find there? This is Jeff Walker's book, Launch. This is the old one. We're going to be talking about the reboot, Launch 2.0, I guess, in just a minute. So, Jeff, thank you for joining me. I'm so excited to have you here.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
So let me tell you a little bit about why I want you on and how I connected, how I discovered you. I invite people on who have inspired me because my goal is to inspire other people. That's the intention of this show. And a couple years ago, one of my friends said, oh my gosh, you got to check out this guy. I had just left my academic career. I wasn't sure what to do. And she said, you got to check him out. And I watched your videos, and I bought your book, and I did one of your series of, because you do all this free stuff. And then she was really struggling. I bought her one of your sessions as a gift to her because she was struggling to get going in her career, and I used a lot of your techniques to get going from zero to where I am right now with my radio show. And so you just inspired me in so many ways. And then I watched all these great videos, conversations you had with people who you also had inspired. So here's where my first question, so thank you, but my first question, you have found your personal renaissance, your what, right? Your why in the world around inspiring people to have a prosperous future. Can you just talk about that journey for a little bit?
Yeah, it's been a crazy journey, and in retrospect, I can tell a story where it all makes sense and seems like it all just I planned it out.
That's great.
But that's not the way it was. It was
okay,
just,
absolutely.
Starting from desperation and just trying to figure one thing out after another. I started as a stay-at-home dad with my, well, I guess I was going even further back. I was in the corporate world for a number of years, and I just never fit there and didn't feel like I fit and didn't feel successful. And when my wife became pregnant with our first child, we wanted one of us to stay home, so I ended up leaving my corporate career, and career is overstating my corporate job, and I was home with a 1-year-old son, and this was in the early '90s, so it was before it was fashionable, and my wife was supporting the family. She had been in school. She got out of school. She got a good job, but it was still, we were trying to support the family on one income, and it was hard, and so I was looking around for some way to help try to support the family. And my ultimate goal was, at that point, was $10,000. If I could bring in $10,000 per year, it would take a lot of pressure off the family.
Yeah.
I mean, it had significant impact. And but I didn't know how to do it. But this is now 1996, and so I've been home taking care of my son for 5 years, and then we had my daughter, so I was now home with a couple kids, and living in the Denver area, and I had this interest in the stock market, so I came up with this idea to start publishing a newsletter via email about the stock market, a free newsletter, not knowing what it could lead to. Frankly, I started that because I needed something to put on a resume, because I thought my path would be to go back to school, to go to grad school, get a graduate degree, and then go back to the corporate world, which is a weird plan since I failed the first time around in the corporate world. But in any case, as you know, you can't get into grad school with nothing on your resume. And I've been changing diapers and making peanut butter sandwiches for the last 5 years. So I started publishing this newsletter, and I just sent it out to everyone I knew who had an email address, which back then was not very many people. The first email newsletter went out to 19 email addresses. One of them was my second email address, and one was my wife's email address. But it felt better to say I had 19 subscribers instead of 17 subscribers. It just, when you're starting out, you're desperate, right? And it just felt better to say I had 19 emails. Mm-hmm. And that eventually started to grow through word of mouth. It was just, I had no credentials. I wasn't a stockbroker. I wasn't a registered investment advisor, a commodity trading advisor. No initials after my name. I just had an interest, and I had studied the stock market, so I started publishing. And through word of mouth, I started to get a few subscribers. And so my second newsletter went out to like 23 people or something, and my third one went out to 30 people. And then I figured out how to put out a free website, which was really hard to do back in the mid-90s. We don't have the tools we have now. Really hard to do. And started getting 1 subscriber a day, and then 2 subscribers a day, and then 3 subscribers a day, and just did everything I could to get my work out there and get noticed. And eventually it got up to about 30 subscribers a day, and that's like 1,900 people a month. And so once it got up to, I don't know, somewhere between over 1,000 subscribers, I had this thought that maybe I could sell something to them. Maybe getting this free newsletter, maybe I could sell something. I could make some money. And so I didn't know how to sell. I'd never done any sales. I had no marketing experience. All my corporate stuff was in operations management. So just no experience whatsoever, no comfort with selling. The idea that someone would pay me for something I created just seemed, beyond belief. But so I was like, how do I sell something? And I came up with this paid version of the newsletter, and I just started. I felt so bad to ask people for money. It was a weird mindset, but I know a lot of people struggle with that. Mm-hmm. A lot of people do, and I now know that. But and plus I felt like these subscribers almost like they were my friends, and so I felt bad about asking for money. I didn't know how, so I started romancing them. I started to put together what we now call pre-launch content. I started to deliver even beyond a free newsletter, but additional training and it was all done via email back in those days, because this is the mid-90s. But then in early 97, it was actually January 1st, 1997, I sent out what we call a sales letter, which is it was an email that said, hey, I've got this new thing coming, and I'd been hinting at this new thing coming, but I've got this new thing, and if you want to get it, then, and this shows you where technology was back then, print off this form, fill it out, and send me a check. Because doing online payments was like rocket science back then. Yeah, it was certainly beyond me, and I didn't have a credit card. There was no PayPal, there was no Venmo, there was nothing. And getting a credit card merchant account was like for grown-ups, and that wasn't me. But a few people sent me a check, and that first launch did $1,650 in sales. And everyone's got a different frame of reference on money. Everyone does. And for some people, that's like incredible. For some people, it's like, well, that doesn't sound that impressive. For me, it was life-changing. It was unbelievable that people would give me money. And I had that goal of $10,000 a year. And at that point, I had this thought. It was one of the most important thoughts I've ever had. And that thought was, if I did this once, I could do it again. And I could do it again. And I could do it again. And I might even get better at it at some point. I had those two thoughts, and that is what happened. The next launch actually did almost 4 times better. It was about $6,000, which is just unbelievable. And the next one was $8,000, and then eventually I did that one that was like around $14,000. And I was taking that same offer, that same newsletter, that paid newsletter, and relaunching it like with a different offer with different bonuses, I was just sort of stepped on this train, and I just kept on putting one foot in front of the other. And so that was 97, early 97. I think I did hit that $10,000 in 1997. And then in 1998, I put together a whole new offer, a whole new product, and did $34,000 in a week, which was about as much money as I made a year when I had my corporate job.
Wow. And
that was at that point where is when my wife and I, Mary and I, started talking about her coming home, and that set that whole plan in motion. And by mid '99, she had left her job. I can't come home to be with the kids and also help me grow the business. In 1999, we decided to move out into the mountains in Colorado. We found a home. We needed a down payment, so I did a launch. That launched at over $100,000 in a week. I just said this in 5 minutes. It sounds like it happened instantly, but that was from mid '96 to like mid '99, and I just couldn't believe it. We moved out to Durango, and where I still live, and then in 2005. Had a shift in the business, and I went from teaching about the stock market to teaching people how to launch, teaching marketing and entrepreneurship, because I'd found over those years, my passion for marketing and for business building and for entrepreneurship was greater than my passion for the stock market. So in 2005, I launched and just grew the business even more. The launches started to get into the hundreds of thousands, into the millions. I've done crazy things like, $5 million launch in 5 days. I had $1 million hour. Actually, it was like $1 million 53 minutes. And so it's just been this crazy ride. But the important number is that now my students who've gone through my process and learned this launch process that I teach have done over $1 billion with a B, dollars in sales. And most of them, and that's not like $1 billion of selling real estate. These are mostly people, very small businesses, either 1-person or 2-person businesses, micro businesses, some of them bigger, but usually starting out as micro businesses, 1-person business, selling probably 80 to 90% of my students sell information-based products like training or online courses or online membership sites. And they tend to have very high margins. So when someone does a launch of $100,000 of a digital product or $10,000 of a digital product, much of that can go right to the bottom line and actually be a profit. Not all of it, but most of it. It's a very high profit margin. So that $1 billion has changed so many lives. And then my students have changed so many lives, because I have people that are teaching everything you could imagine, from how to read echocardiograms to how to have a massage practice to how to knit a beautiful sweater to how to play tennis to how to have a meditation practice to how to train your dog and how to carve wooden dolls, how to do surface pattern design. It just goes on and on and on, including how to take care of your child that's on the autism spectrum, and how to take care of your child who's got fetal alcohol syndrome, or how to be a better parent to your children. And so the impact has just been, it's hard to believe. I started out just a stay-at-home dad, just desperate to try to help pay the mortgage. but here we are. 20.
Here we are.
That's 25 years. There you go.
So here's what's fascinating. I've heard your story before. I've been following you for a while, and as I said, I've used some of your techniques to build a website, build a radio show, all those things. But you said some things today that I have not heard you say, or perhaps I wasn't listening. I heard the part about your sort of this resume building. Didn't realize grad school was part of it. But there are so many, especially women, and especially now, who that is their resume. I was changing diapers and making peanut butter sandwiches, and now helping homeschool my child. That they're desperate, that they want something different, that they would love a micro business, but they don't know what to do. But the word you said that captured me, that I've never heard you say, was romancing. You were romancing people. And the reason I love that is I talk about seducing people, which is just another level of that seducing life to us. I'm wondering, this hadn't occurred to me before, do you believe, or how has that experience? Because your language sounds a great deal like many women in 2020 who want to start a side gig, and this is their life. You described it. How do you think that's improved your effectiveness with working with micro businesses and especially women?
Well, first of all, I think my process is it's about marketing. It's about sales. My life has become about impact. That's what drives me these days. But at the end of the day, I'm teaching marketing and sales and entrepreneurship. But the core of it is marketing and sales. And what I teach is inherently a relationship-based sale. And I stumbled onto that because I was afraid to ask for the order back in 1996, and it worked. So it kept on working, and I kept on tweaking it, and then I started helping friends do it, and I learned from them. But at the end of the day, it's a relationship-based sale, and it naturally, I think, if we have to make a broad generalization, is that going to who is more about relationships, men?
That's right. Yes.
Men or women? I mean, it's a broad generalization, and we're all about relationships. But that softer sale, I think, tends to resonate very strongly with women.
Yes.
Well, I just know because I look at my audience. Like when I do a live event, back in the old days before the pandemic, when I did live events, you could just look out at the audience, and it's 60%, 65% women.
Right.
And in an industry where you go to any other event, and it's 30% women.
Right.
And I think it's just because of that inherent relationship-based sale, that idea of romancing, of delivering value, of building that relationship before you ask for the sale. And oh, by the way, I just got lucky in that I stumbled onto that idea right when the world was shifting to this online world is about connection. It's about transparency. It's about congruency. It's about the word that gets overused so much, authenticity. Well, all those things, you can't hide now when you're online.
Right.
People can see more of you.
That's right.
So it's not just like some drive-by, boom, here's this, buy my thing, buy my thing, buy my thing.
Right.
And I happen to be in the right place for whatever reason with that right message. And oh, by the way, if you look, I think I haven't seen like super official statistics, but I've heard it secondhand that the number of women starting business is far exceeds the number of men starting business.
Right.
At least in the United States.
In the United States, and especially we're going to see a growth in that with 2020 because women were so negatively impacted by the pandemic. Who was doing most of the homeschooling, and again, it's a generalization, but who lost most of the jobs, who was downsized more, who now realize, and in this world, almost everyone needs some kind of a side hustle, some sort of a plan B. I was fired very young from a job. I had a job at Sears. I was trying to get into grad school, and I got fired, and that was the job that taught me right then, I was 21, that you've always got to have a plan B and a C and maybe a D. You've got to have multiple income streams if you can, because life is unpredictable, and this is a way to flow with it.
Right. So this is an interesting thing. I haven't told this story very often. When there was the trying to get into grad school and starting this newsletter and
Right.
putting it on my resume, and it worked. I got into grad school.
Wow.
And I got accepted. I was going to go for a graduate degree in finance. Not an MBA, but a whatever it's called, MS in finance.
Okay.
And that was going to be my career. And so I had to put it on my resume. I audited a class, and I did really, really well in the class to try to get. I did all these things to get in. I took the GMAT, like the test. It was just full-time work on that, full-time work on starting this newsletter thing, full-time work on raising a kid. So there was a lot of pain involved. And so January 1st, I did that launch. That's when I sent out the newsletter. Well, that same week I started classes, first week of January. So it was January. It might have been January 4th or 5th. I don't remember the exact date. But I started classes, and I went and I sat in the class. And it was a night class because it had to be. So I was home with the kids all day. Mary comes home. I go off to school. So I'm sitting in that class, and before I finish the story, I have to say I'm not an impulsive person. I sort of plan things out. I'm not an impulsive person, but I'm sitting in class, listening to the lecture, and for a grad, there's like 100 kids in this class, and it's finance, blah, blah, blah. And you probably remember like Peanuts, the teacher
Yes.
in Peanuts. That's what it felt like for me. I'm listening to this professor. I'm looking around. I'm 10 years older than all the kids in the class. I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking about doing that launch and $1,650, and I'm thinking about 2 years of grad school and then corporate world. I'm thinking about $1,650, and in the middle of that class, I just got up and I walked out.
Wow.
And I'm like, this is not my future. And I worked so hard to get there, to get into, I created this year-long plan to find a way to qualify to be in that room. And then I'm like, I see the future. And I did this one launch, and I know I can do it again. I see the future. I'm done. And I walked out.
That's an amazing story. One, because it takes a great deal of courage. One, because that was also a lousy graduate class. Can I just say that? Having been an academic dean and a professor, that was a lousy class. It takes so much courage to walk out of something that we have put that much energy into and have, oh my gosh, I'm here, I can do this. And I want to play off of that because you saw the future. How have you noticed that in your work with your clients? You help them see the future?
Yeah, I actually think that's part of my job is to hold a vision for their future that's bigger than they can see. I think, given my experience now, it's been 25 years.
Right.
I've had 25 years in the online business, 16 years of teaching people about entrepreneurship, and tens of thousands of students, hundreds of thousands of books sold. I've been through it.
You've been through it.
And I've been, and I think it's my job to have that vision for their future, and it's bigger than they can see, because I couldn't see it. I'll tell you what, like one of the cool things I did was I went and I found a training program, the first online training, it wasn't online, the first program about online business that I could find was a training program. And it actually shipped to me in a floppy disk to show you how old this was. And part of that program was to like put together a set of goals. And there's a lot of different ways to set goals. There's SMART goals and there's this goal and that kind of. But this exercise was, think of the biggest goals you can that feel relatable, that you actually can conceive of, that you could actually achieve. And so I set out all these goals in all these areas of my life. Being relationship, my physical health, adventure, because I love to be outside, but for an income goal, I put $100,000 and that was the biggest goal that I could think of back then. In the mid '90s,
Right.
It was like that'd be like check the box, you're rich.
It's all. I did it. I made it.
There's nothing more
That's right.
to be done in terms of income.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, I have had times now where, you know, I've raised in a day, I've raised way more than $100,000 for a nonprofit and given that away. You know, I've raised millions of dollars for nonprofits. And you know, I have a business that does, you know, I can't even quantify how much more than that, but a lot more than, I've got 40 employees. I've got employees that I pay more than $100,000 a year. So, yeah, it's just, I remember what it was like back then.
And I
And
have to go
yeah.
ahead, keep going.
Well, I remember when I did, eventually, when we started to figure out how to do credit cards, you had to get what they call a merchant account,
Yes.
which is the account that your credit cards run through, and then it shows up in your bank. And back then, it was difficult to get these. And you had to, like, take a picture of your office, which was like our spare bedroom. I had to move the baby's changing table out of the way when I took the photo. I'm dead serious. And I sent that in, and we got approved. And the woman, bless her heart, she called me up and said, we're approving you, but we're only going to approve you for, I can't remember the exact amount, I think it was $4,000 a month. We're going to approve you for that, we can process $4,000 a month. And I like laughed, because actually it might have been 10,000. It might have been 10,000 a month. I'll take that back. I'm going to say it was 10,000. It was 25 years ago. $10,000 a month. And I laughed, because the idea that I could do $10,000 in sales in a month was just ludicrous. I mean, I literally laughed out loud. And she said, don't you laugh. Don't you laugh. You're going to get there. You're going to get there. And
oh my gosh.
I mean, I was like, I didn't believe her. But looking back, it was such a sweet moment for her to, I mean, she's just working at a bank and approving but yeah, she's like, you're going to get there. You're going to get there.
But one of the things that comes through as we're speaking is, and I have to say, it's the reason you didn't enjoy the class, that graduate class, and what makes you such a great teacher. One of the things I've learned over many, many years is that when we get good at something, we forget the beginning. We forget that first step. And we try to teach people from the I'm already there level. And all of your stories go back to, right, peanut butter sandwiches and changing tables and what's on my resume. And I think that's one of the reasons you're so impactful. And I want to say, it sounds like so much of this now is less about money and more about changing people's lives and impacting others and fundraising, and that's what drives you now. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I call it, there's a book called Made to Stick I read long ago.
Right.
It's a good book, and they talk about the curse of knowledge. And that's the idea that once you become an expert, it's really hard to remember what it's like to be a beginner.
Right.
And personally, I try to put myself back in beginner mode, like find things where I'm a complete beginner at, just so I can have that beginner's mind.
Right.
I try to do that. But, you know, in 2008, I did a launch, and that was a launch that did $1 million in 53 minutes. It did $3.7 million in 34 hours. And remember at this point, I'm only 12 years removed from $100,000 is the biggest number I could think of. And at that point, and I got a caveat, 3.7 million, that's not all profit. I had partners, like promotional partners that I was paying commissions to. But even if you take a big chunk of that away, it's still, when your goal is $100,000, it's still a lot of money. And we haven't really grown, even to this day, really haven't grown our lifestyle very much at all. We still live in the same house that we bought 21 years ago with that launch. And so at that point, a funny thing happened. And this might be hard to relate for a lot of people, but I know some people listening will relate to this. And that is, I went to a bit of a tailspin of like, what's my life about now? Like, I felt like I'd reached the pinnacle, and is that all there is? This is like you see Olympic athletes win a gold medal and then sort of go into a bit of a tailspin because I spent my entire life working for this. And here I'd spent these 12 years building this business, and it wasn't like that was the end, but it was just so much, so outsized compared to what my dreams were in terms of finances. I didn't know what to do. So I went on a bit of a journey, and this is going to sound like it happened in a week, but it didn't. It was probably 6 months of going meditation retreats and yoga retreats and Tony Robbins seminar and life book and journaling and just trying to figure out what my life was about. And what I eventually came to was that my life's about helping entrepreneurs, helping people become entrepreneurs, helping people grow their businesses, and helping people. Really, what we're doing online is, the whole world has shifted to online education, but my world shifted to online education 25 years ago. And that's really what I've been doing for 25 years is one form or another online education. And so, it's all about education and entrepreneurship and helping people become, build businesses and transfer their skills and teach others how to live a better life, whether that's through knitting or meditation or having a dog that comes when you call.
That's pretty powerful because one, that you'll talk about it openly, and two, that you went through that transformation. Right? That once you reached a goal, because we don't think about that. I've reached a goal. Now what do I do? I'd like to spin off on that a little if I can. Some
Sure.
of your videos that you just you randomly do a video somewhere, and I have to say I love the fact that you don't do super professional, perfect hair in a studio videos. I love that because it's not my style, right? And I just love that about you. But what you often do is take something that occurs to you in daily life. You're on the river with your kids, or you're on the lake, or you're biking, whatever, and you cut a video and you take that moment and you connect it back to entrepreneurship or resiliency or grit, or you can do this. And did that just emerge from that time period of struggle, or where did that come from?
It did. I'm trying to remember because I do a weekly video now, which is sort of archaic. Now everyone's doing 15. So they're doing Insta stories every day, and so I'm pretty old school that way. So once a week I put out a video on my blog, and I think I've been doing that about 7 or 8 years now. And like so many things, I just the first one I put out was just I felt inspired in the moment. I was like on this beach in Florida right after this torrential downpour, and I was the only person on this beach because the rain stopped, and it was just an inspirational moment and place, and I just felt inspired to shoot a video, and I had my phone, and so I shot a video and I put it up, and people liked it, and since then it's. Obviously at that point I've been publishing in one form or another for a long time, and I've been doing video for a decent chunk of time, and some pretty nice video at times for a decent chunk of time, but just like I decided to lean into that. And frankly, one of my inspirations for those weekly videos is I want my kids to have something they can look back on, sometime down the road, because some of the videos are about marketing, some of them are about business, a lot of them are about having a great life and leading a life of intention. And so a lot of those videos are just I'm making it more for my kids than for anyone.
It's another way that you're romancing. You are building relationship. Yes, I know what you're teaching, but you're teaching it through relationship, through romance, through living fully, all of that, which I think sets you apart. I think that's one of the reasons that I continue to follow you, because it's not just a grit coaching session. It's a life, it's sort of mentoring session that you offer, and I so appreciate that. So I want to, well, first off, if you've just joined me, I forgot to do some announcements. If you just joined me, you missed a great half hour. You'll have to go back and watch it on my website or on Facebook. This is the Dr. Elisa Show on KUHS Denver, and if you can't tell, wow, do I love doing this show. And especially today, I have an amazing guest, Jeff Walker from Product Launch Formula, and his book is launched. We're going to talk about this because he just released a second edition, and we're having this amazing conversation, and we're going to get to ways that he can help you, but right now we're sort of just digging into the meat. But Jeff, can you tell people all the different ways they can get in touch with you, because they're all going to want to follow you now that we're having this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably, so I have a blog at jeffwalker.com. My primary training is at productlaunchformula.com, and there we'll periodically do a free masterclass. And it's free. It's amazing amount of training, and then eventually I'll try to sell you something like the upgraded version,
right,
if you join there. Right now, frankly, we just came out of doing a great big event, so I don't even know what's at that page, but you can probably put your email address in, and then when we're ready to do another masterclass, then we'll send you an email. And then, I'm on Instagram at Jeff Walker CO. I'm not there all the time, but every now and then I'll post a story. It's usually when I'm having fun out in the mountains, skiing or mountain biking or something like that. And literally, if you just go to Google and type Jeff Walker launch, you're gonna find everything.
You actually come up and your videos come up. Everything about you comes up.
Yep. Yeah. I'm on YouTube at I don't even know what. Yeah, if you just go search YouTube for Jeff Walker, you're gonna probably Jeff Walker launch, you'll absolutely find it.
Right. So where I'd like to go a little bit deeper into maybe some advice for people. But can we start with your book? Because I just watched a video you did with an author whose first name I can't pronounce. I'm so sorry.
Una?
Yes, her. Thank you.
Yeah.
And
it's
you talked about
a Scottish name.
Yes.
Yeah.
You talked about the importance of the book cover and a relaunch and the work in that. So the first book is the blue launch book. Just talk a little bit about so everyone knows, right? The reboot of that book.
Yeah, so that book came out in June of 2014, so almost exactly 7 years ago. And of course, it took me like a couple of years to write, so it was written from like 2012 to 2014. And so things have changed. I teach this formula, and strategically, this formula is unchanged from 1996 in a strategic sense, and that idea of romancing and delivering value and establishing your authority ahead of making any type of an offer, any type of an ask for money. So his strategic, the same strategy applies, but things changed. When I started out, it was purely email. Then eventually we had blogs. I mean, blog was this amazing innovation. Can you imagine that? And then we had like, you could actually post photos. And the first 10 years I was online, no one knew what I looked like. You literally putting a photo on a web page was like hard to do. And then we had audio, and then we had ugly screen capture video, and then we had like the starts of the first real video, and then we had fancy video, and then we have live broadcasts, and of course social media all through that, and YouTube, and so all along I've been innovating. So this book, the new edition, we changed to Hay House as our publisher, which is a major publisher, and I'm dear friends with the CEO there. So they took my book. And it was a major rewrite. It's actually not out yet. It's not going to be out for until the end of July. It's on. I don't even have a copy yet. I'm not going to get a copy now for about 3 more weeks. And it's on Amazon. You can pre-order it on Amazon.
Okay.
The cover is completely different. The title is. Oh, one other thing back, just because I can say it. When the first edition was released, in its second week, it hit #1 in the New York Times.
Wow.
Bestseller. So that was pretty fun. That was like I got a plaque for that. I mean, you have to. Someone sent me a plaque for that. The New York Times doesn't do anything for you. But in any case, so it's a major update, lots of additions. Social media is new. Social media existed back then, but it wasn't what it is now. Paid traffic, where you can advertise and drive traffic, is gone to a whole new level, and is to a very, and has helped our kinds of businesses quite a bit. And then the ability to use live broadcasts like this in a launch is really been a major innovation that actually works really well for people that are just starting out. Amazingly enough, I didn't see that one coming, but it's become that way. So they added all that in, and refreshed all the way up throughout the book, and it ended up being a lot longer, which I don't like to talk about it, but because I don't want people to think it's too long, because it moves along, the book flies along. But yeah, new cover, new subtitle, the same formula, all updated.
Is there a new intention with it? Because that in the interview I saw you do, she talked about changing from a bestseller intention to a changing people's lives intention, and you said that will change your launch, that will change your process, that will change everything about what happens. So is there a new intention with this book?
Well, it's funny. No, in that, like, when I put that book out, it was for a few reasons. It was three big reasons. The first reason was a book is a great way to newsflash for everyone out there who wants to have a book. You don't make a lot of money with books. Even when you sell, I mean, I've sold hundreds of thousands. You still don't make very much money. The typical, if you go through a trade publisher as opposed to self-publishing, the typical deal, I think, is around 8 to 12% of the wholesale price. And the wholesale price is 40% less than the retail price. So if you sell a $12 book, the wholesale, you're probably going to make $1 off of it. And most books sell a few thousand copies, and you're going to spend 2 years of your life writing this book. This is, I'm sorry for cold water, but unless you're J.K. Rowling,
that's right.
There's very, very few people that make money off of a book. But it's still great. There's lots of great reasons to have a book. Lots and lots of great reasons. One of them, you just want to you have something you want to get out.
Right.
And that's a great reason to write a book. And another one is if you have a business, it can be a great business card, essentially, for your business, but it also can drive people into your business. It can bring people in. And it's brought, so that first I knew that would give me a wider exposure to bring people in. Second, is that this formula that I invented is a pretty big deal. It's changed the way marketing is done. It's changed the way online business is done. Literally, it's transformative. And someone's going to get credit for that. And I wanted it, it's my baby. I wanted it, I put my stamp in the ground. So part of it was legacy. So part of it was bigger awareness, more people coming into my business, what leads is the term. More leads coming into my business, because people find the book, they love the book, they look me up, and they start following. So leads, legacy, and then the third was impact, because my online training is not inexpensive, but this way, for the cost of a book, people could get the formula and run with it. Right. And I have just people do incredible launches just with the book. Never looking me up. Never. In the new book, I tell a story of, and I want to come back to intention in a second too.
Okay.
In the new book, then I tell the story of going on Amazon and looking at the reviews of my book, which is generally not a good thing. It's not. I don't suggest this to anyone, but I had the new edition coming out, and I wanted to find out what people didn't like about the first edition. Right. And so, like, if I could correct that, fine. There's got to be some knowledge, some wisdom there, if there's a common thread. The common thread of the 1-star reviews is they all thought I was hugely egotistical. So there you go.
There you go.
Yeah. But when I went there to look, 6-8 months ago or whatever, there were, right at the top, there was 2 brand new reviews. And one of them said something to the effect of, "This is the worst book I've ever read." Like, just, there's no value in this book. Worst book I've ever read. And then directly next to it was a review from someone who I'd never heard of. And she said, I was a former preschool teacher, and this book helped me build an 8-figure business.
Oh my gosh.
8 figures. So that's over $10 million per year.
Oh
$10 million in sales per year. This book, and she went on to say, I've never bought anything else from Jeff. This book gave me everything. And I was like, the juxtaposition between those two was absolutely ridiculous. And so she left her name, and so I looked it up, and she has a significant imprint because with a $10 million business you do.
Right.
Her name's Tiffany Elisa. She's, I'm going to say, late 30s, early 40s. I'm going to guess. I might get in trouble for guessing a young woman's age. And she's built this incredible business teaching women about finances, about running their personal finances. And she was recently on, I think, on the cover of Money magazine. She has a New York Times bestseller, and she traces it all back to buying the book.
Wow. So this sense of impact, right, that you have on people, that you've shifted, you needed to make money, right? You did, and now, like, what's inspiring you, it sounds like, is the way you're changing other people's lives.
Yeah, for sure.
Right, and did you want to circle back around to intention on that?
Well,
book?
it's funny because like that interview I did last week with Una, she has a book, and the new book is called, well, it's the same book with a new title.
Right.
The new title is called Ditch the Diet.
Right. And
Una lives in Canada, is Canadian, and so she changed her title. She changed her cover. And she's relaunching it here in the States. The first time around, it was a bestseller in, I think, the Globe and Mail is the primary Canadian national newspaper. It was like a #1 bestseller there, and she used my process. In fact, she sat at this table where I'm at right now in a mastermind with me, where we planned her book launch. And so she used that, and she's all about getting that bestseller, but she's like, this time I just want to get it out. The bestseller doesn't mean much. And frankly, for me, I got #1 New York Times bestseller for my book in 2014. It's like a check mark that I've got next to my name. It's about the only real check mark I've got next to my name. It's the only I don't have any other credentials other than #1 New York Times bestseller. But this time around, I don't care about, hitting the bestseller list. I care about getting as many books out there as possible, and getting as many hands and helping as many people as possible.
So this is amazing to have the chance to talk to you. And in the time we have left, I want to, let me just, pitch you a couple. Like, let's say I show up somewhere, right? And I say, look, I have this resume that's bizarre, right? Mine is I have a master's in geology, I've got a PhD in psych, I've got a second master's, I have enough degrees to share. You can have one. And now I'm doing radio. What am I going to launch? Where do you start someone? And their story might be, I've made peanut butter sandwiches, right? And had a job that's not working. How do you help? How do we start? How do you help people find that?
So I'm just going to,
anything. Say whatever you want.
I love to talk about my students. So we have Anne LaFollette is, and I can tell you her age because she shares it openly, and she's just a few years older than me. She's in her early 60s. And when I think she was around 59 or so, she was successful in the corporate world. She worked for, I think at the end of her career, she was working for the Gap and in operations and at a very high level. And then one day, and she just thought she was going to ride out her career there, and one day they just downsized her, just out of the blue. Just no warning whatsoever. She got called into the office. She thought, had just a regular day, and then, no, you're driving home today and you don't have a job. And she had always had an interest in art. And she had a bunch of art supplies downstairs. And her husband basically said, you got all those art supplies, why don't you start doing something with those now that you're home? And so she found her way to this thing called surface pattern design, which is this, I Googled it, even after I Googled it, I couldn't figure out what it is, but it's basically taking doodles
Right.
and putting them in Adobe Illustrator and turning them into a repeating pattern that then can go on like a mouse pad or a handbag or a napkin or all kinds of things in our world. You'll start to see them as you look around the world. Or your Dixie cup or whatever. But people can create these and they can actually sell them and license them and make money. And she learned how to do this. Ironically enough, she learned from one of my students who was teaching how to do this.
Wow.
She found her way back to me, started what she started doing, so she developed this interest, developed this skill of doing this surface pattern design, and she started publishing and what she started doing was a live broadcast, just like this,
right, every
week on Facebook. And she said, I just learned how to talk to the green dot, on your computer.
That's right.
I just talked to the green dot. And she had a cousin, I think her cousin's name was Katie, and her cousin would show up every week and watch her. And that was the only person, but she's just talked about this surface pattern design. And then she started spending, I think it was $4 a day on Facebook advertising her work, which was nothing but doing these lives every week, and gradually had people start to show up. But she'd been practicing talking to the green dot, and she's like, that's all I did. I talked to her. Now there's a few people. Now there's 3 people watching. Now there's 4 people watching. Now there's 5 people. Then she did her first launch, and it was like a proof of concept. And frankly, I can't remember what the dollars were, but it was better than my first launch. I think it was $10,000 or something. And this is all recent. This is all started at the end of 2018. And then in 2019, she did a couple launches, and she made $100,000. And then last year, during COVID, with all kinds of people at home looking for something to do, her business grew to $400,000. She's 62 years old right now.
Wow.
She said she loves no entrepreneurial experience, no following, whatever. But what she did was she started publishing. She just started publishing, and she grew a following, and she grew a connection. Now, one important thing is she's basically teaching people surface pattern design. And this other woman that she learned from is also teaching surface pattern design. The other woman that she learned from is 35 years old. Some people want to buy from a 35-year-old, and some people want to buy from a 62-year-old. Some people want their teacher to be a 62-year-old person who got downsized out of their job. And she leans into it. She loves her people. Her people love her. Because it's just Ann showing up. Ann's doodles. Showing up and showing how to do this work and showing how to recreate your life.
So again, it's about romancing. It's about relationship. It's about what I talk about, following your soul's craving, right? Being that true self. And following that. And I know there's much more to it, and we have all of 1 minute here, so we can't. But this has been an absolutely amazing time with you. I will tell you that I've used some of your techniques to grow my radio show, and I'm using more of those. And I'm actually, and I'll report back if that's okay. I'm going to do a launch either next week or the week after. I've got all the pieces together, and I've got a few of them lined up. Like I said, I bought one. I gifted one of my friends one of, I think it was the last one you did, the whatever that was, the product launch. That one. Yeah, I gifted that one of my friends. I've gifted your book. So in this last minute, just remind people how to find you and how to find your book, because they can pre-order your book, which I'm going to do. So how do they find you?
Well, you can find me at jeffwalker.com. I have a blog there. I publish it every week. You can find, and then just if you go to Amazon and just search Jeff Walker launch, and you'll find the new edition. The new edition is like orange and yellow.
Yeah, it's jazzy. Yeah. It's really jazzy. Yeah. Yeah. So if you're still if you just joined us, you joined the end of my show, and you missed this amazing conversation with Jeff Walker. This is the Dr. Elisa Show on KUHS Denver, the stream, and we are out of time. But guess what? I publish this. It'll be on Facebook. It'll be on my personal page, on the Dr. Elisa Show page. It'll be on elisarobin.com. I'll also link it over to my YouTube site and LinkedIn and Twitter. And I have to say, Jeff, I was already teaching online, so I knew technology, but it was your book and your launch that I attended that made me realize I had to go further. So you've already helped. So if you're listening, so Jeff, thank you. Just hang on for 1 minute. And thank you everyone for listening. I'll be back in 2 weeks, and until that time, please stay well. We're still working on that, but more importantly, or as importantly, please stay inspired, because there's so much in this life that you can use to ignite your life and to live your soul's craving. So have a great 2 weeks, and the next time I see you, we're going to inspire you some more.